Let's bring in now Liz Storer, Sky News host and contributor Joe Hildebrand. Welcome to you both.
Hello. Lovely to be here.
Now, let's start by talking about these climate zealots. Over 30 were arrested on Saturday in Melbourne CBD. They were once again putting on a show by blocking tram tracks and stopping everyone from just going about their daily business. Last week's climate protests left one woman who was caught in the traffic on her way to the hospital. She had no choice but to actually give birth in her car. Joe, this is really, someone's going to lose their life because people are blocking traffic, protests, but don't put everyone else out.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's insane. I mean, leaving aside the dangerousness of it and putting other people's lives in jeopardy, which tells you everything you need to know about how much these people really care about others. It is the most counterproductive, self-imploding strategy you can pursue if you actually genuinely do believe in climate change. Clearly these people are either some kind of weird brain damaged sociopaths or they simply, and maybe it's both, or they simply care more about their own virtue signalling than they do about actually getting results. Now I say this as someone who has, run campaigns for climate change. I did of course the Mission Zero campaign for News Corp that ended up, I think, paving the way for the coalition government to actually set a target of net zero by 2050. So actual, real, tangible change, and those targets have since been strengthened by Labor. That is how you get things done. And we did that, of course, by saying, look, these are the opportunities in the economy that could be presented. We are not going to leave any worker behind. We're going to make sure that, that it's not more expensive for households, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. Not all of those things worked out the way we'd hope, but again, this is how you get change by talking to Middle Australia and offering them benefits, not by ruining their day. And of course, every single person who's delayed, every single person who's had their day ruined by these numbskulls is going to end up thinking that whatever cause it is they're espousing must be as vapid and selfish and stupid and irrational as they are.
And yet the government is doing similar, right? They keep foisting these unreasonable, ridiculous measures on everyday Australians, whether it's, you can't turn your aircon up as high as you want it to be or as low in this case. Yeah. If you're in Queensland, we're going to control it. You have to buy an EV. We're phasing out diesel cars. Now we're making it more expensive for you to buy a car with grunt, etc. and so on. And I think that is why every single time, Shari, these guys, even if they're arrested for massively inconveniencing the masses, just lawfully trying to go about their business, they only ever get a slap on the wrist. I mean, we saw last week in Melbourne, the police had to move them on. They were lying on the ground pretending to be dead. I mean, this is nonsense. And yet the judiciary does not ever seem to give these people stiff enough consequences for their actions because, as I always argue, they are in a way doing the government's bidding, keeping this in the consciousness of the community to say, climate change and it's so urgent, because with a government that is pushing these ridiculous policies, and you mentioned targets, Joe, but this government itself has admitted they're never going to reach any of them in time. Look ridiculous.
It's like the Greta Thunberg, how dare you? Like it just makes it a farce. And so, and same with all the catastrophic predictions, and same, of course, and you're absolutely right, in punishing, you can't punish people into agreeing with you. You can't say, we're going to take away all these things that you rely on or that make your life a bit more comfortable or that you enjoy, like cooking with gas or, being able to have a nice temperature.
How is the government any better? Even having your rubbish collected once a week. Not a luxury.
You don't have to. There are plenty of smart people out there. There are plenty of amazing things that could be possible, maybe with the help of nuclear, who knows, but whatever. This does not have to be living with net zero doesn't have to be a life of misery. In fact, it can be a life that's much, much better. But with these sort of catastrophists, it just ruins that and it actually hurts the government. It doesn't help it.
All right, let's have a look at another topic. Just as Australia's push for a voice referendum failed, there was a similar push to change Ireland's referendum that has also crashed. A couple of weekends ago, Irish voters overwhelmingly rejected a referendum to rewrite their constitution. It was a defiant pushback against the ruling progressive elites. The Irish were asked if they wanted to change the definition of the word family and to update the role of women's duties at home. 68% and 74% said no, respectively. Liz, it seems like there is this push that's happening globally, and yet again another resounding rejection.
Well, it just goes to show here's another Western government completely out of touch with the vast majority of people that they're supposed to be representing. It's a good reminder. Ireland is still a very Catholic country, a very conservative country, and the elites in Dublin clearly have absolutely no clue the people that they're supposed to be representing. I absolutely loved this referendum. It's another reminder. These governments that are obsessed with social manipulation, this kind of social conditioning, what these people were doing was standing up for their way of life. These were two referendums, one on motherhood and the other on marriage. That's effectively what they were. And these guys weren't having a bar of it. I love the story coming out saying in some of these polling booths, there were these religious medallions that some probably...
Miracle medals.
That's what they're called, the Virgin Mary. And it's a symbol of her crushing a serpent underneath her feet, which I think is very apt to represent most Western governments these days, trying to foist this progressive agenda on us, trying to make us feel like, oh, you're so backwards and you're so, well, you're just not modern enough unless you're on board with our agenda. And such a comprehensive vote in both referendums, it just sends them packing. It's a beautiful thing. I love it.
Let's have a quick look at what Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said overnight. He's refusing to succumb to international pressure. He says he is going to press on with destroying Hamas in Gaza. Have a look.
We cannot have a future for Gaza, a future for peace, a future for Israel, if Hamas, a terrorist organization committed to our genocide, remains intact. If it remains intact, it will regroup and reconquer the Gaza Strip and, as they vowed, repeat the massacre again and again and again.
And this comes after, look, this happened Friday night, overnight our time, kind of early Saturday morning, but the US Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Joe, he came out and said Israel needs to hold elections. They have to get rid of Netanyahu.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, everyone has their own view on Netanyahu, but ultimately, who the hell is America to tell Israel when to hold elections? It's a democracy. Why isn't America telling Gaza to hold elections and to get rid of Hamas?
That's right. Well, I think Hamas got up in the last election, and that was, what, 2006? It's a really hard one. I think this is, I mean, obviously to hold an election in the middle of this would be pretty messy, and I don't think you can really do that. We know the point of holding the election would be to change the sort of the strategy behind the tactics that Israel is currently using. But I think there is a genuine concern about just how far Netanyahu and it's not just Netanyahu who's at issue here, but the fact that to hold government, he needs to cozy up to people who are far to the right of him. So he's actually doing the bidding of people who are.
But that's
actually,
not even happening now. Like there seems to be
they do have a war. Yeah, they've got a war
destroying
cabinet.
Hamas.
They've got that's right. So as soon as that happened, they brought in a war cabinet that had people from all parties. But that seems to be splintering a bit. And even as long ago as I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was a piece in the Wall Street Journal that said that the IDF itself and the head of the IDF and the defence minister are now saying we do not actually have a purpose for this war anymore. Yes, we all agree that Hamas has to be wiped out, and Netanyahu is absolutely correct about that. But what happens then? So we're fighting this massive war.
Well, it's
huge
returning the hostages and destroying Hamas.
But what takes Hamas's place? What are they trying to, it's regime change? So it's regime change replaced with what? So it looks change.
But the US saying this, they're obviously just shilling for votes. They've got an election coming up and they know that they're going to bleed votes over their support of Israel. I say support of Israel because the democratic support of Israel is about as baseless as the support they get from our government here. Left is like left. So they want to be seen as saying this. And Netanyahu is quite right in saying this is completely inappropriate. But what they're playing on is a legitimate lack of popularity for Netanyahu. We saw this way before the massacres on October 7th. Hundreds of thousands of people marched asking him to resign. This weekend, the footage of the rally on Saturday night, absolutely massive, demanding that he resign. So that's what the US is playing on. But for them, it's really just about
It's
votes.
about politics. And I wouldn't be surprised if Biden got Chuck Schumer as a Jew to go out there and say that for him.
100%.
Liz Storer, Joe Hildebrand, thank you both so
Thanks,
much.
Joe.